local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good morning. I'm Pirushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 20 degrees, mostly cloudy in Ottawa. Smiths Falls, it's 19. Here's what's making news right now. Now, breaking news from the music world, where legend Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96. The timeless singer was known as a master of the American songbook and won over many generations of fans over several decades. City's Caitlin Lee is taking a look back at his incredible life.
Born Anthony Benedetto in 1926, the classic crooner got his shortened stage name from entertainer Bob Hope, who gave him his big break back in 1949. In his 70-plus year career, he released 70 albums and collaborated with everyone from Judy Garland.
When I come home to you, San Francisco,
Gaga.
and I love you
Like a tattoo.
under my skin.
With whom he released 2 albums and won a couple of his 20 Grammys. On Conan O'Brien back in 1993, he spoke of his mentor, Frank Sinatra.
He gave me some great advice that I've stuck to and insisted on, and it's really helped me survive, because he said, just stay with great songs.
Bennett said he just liked to make people feel good when he performed.
Fly me to the moon.
His death comes after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2016. Tony Bennett was just 2 weeks short of his 97th birthday. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
Now, here at home, opposition parties say the upcoming provincial by-election in Canada Carleton will be a referendum on the Ford government's healthcare record. City News reporter Chris Curry is now with the details.
A lot of focus on the West End this week, with the Premier and Minister of Health in town making funding announcements, while the NDP were here as well, making their pitch to voters and saying the main issue at the door is the healthcare system and its struggles. Here's the Liberal candidate, Karen McCrimmon, who said that's why she stepped forward to run.
I don't agree with a lot of Mr. Ford's priorities and his actions, and I think the decisions, especially around healthcare, are negatively affecting the people of Canada Carleton.
The by-election is on Thursday. It's being held to replace MPP Marilee Fullerton, who resigned this year. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, we still don't know when the O-Train service will resume, but testing is ongoing. OC Transpo saying Axle Hub assembly testing will also continue today. However, expect some changes on R1 buses. Buses will use Albert and Slater instead of Queen Street. Westbound buses running on Albert with stops at Bank and Kent. Eastbound running on Slater with stops at Kent and O'Connor. Now, buses will run from Blair to Tunney's except for Lee's station. A shuttle will take you between Lee's, U-Ottawa, and Rideau stations. Now, taking a look at your weather for today and into the weekend, here's Denise Andriachi.
Scattered showers and the risk of some thunderstorms for this afternoon, and we've got periods of rain later tonight as well, and into tomorrow. It's a bit unsettled at times. We do have sunny breaks Saturday, but there is the risk of some isolated storms. Highs near 24. Special statements in place, so some communities could see 30 to 50 millimeters over the course of the day today. The guaranteed high, 23.
21 right now in Ottawa, Smiths Falls, it's 19. City News Time, 10:04. I'm Pirushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome to the Sam Laprade Show. Good morning, Ottawa. Good morning. We made it. It's Friday. As my good friend Rob Snow would say, we made it. It's Friday. Welcome to the Sam Laprade Show. If it's not obvious already, Sam is off. Sam is off for a couple of weeks, so I'm in this week. I'll be back in again next week as well. And usually I start off the show with perhaps a bit of a rant or telling you what's making news. But we start off today's show with Mayor Mark Sutcliffe. Good morning, Mayor. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Derek. Good morning to all your listeners. I'm very well, thank you. And obviously, I'm very concerned about and heartbroken over the death of a pedestrian in Ottawa. And my heart goes out to the family. And it's a very tragic story. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity to chat this morning.
No, our pleasure having you on, Mayor Sutcliffe, and I share those same sentiments. It's heartbreaking, a young woman's life lost, and of course that investigation continues, and we're following that here at City News, and we'll update our listeners and our viewers on Rogers TV as we get word about that. Let's start off talking about the fact you've been in New York City the better part of this week at the Bloomberg School for Mayors. Tell us about that experience and what you've been up to there.
So this is a program that was launched by Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, and he partnered with Harvard University to create a program for mayors to meet each other and learn from each other and learn from the experts at Harvard on municipal issues. And so I was invited to join this program. It costs absolutely nothing to taxpayers. The program is by invitation only, and the costs are covered. So there's zero cost to taxpayers for this trip and for the learning experience. And it's a year-long program where there are Zoom calls and opportunities to connect with other mayors, but it started with a few days here in New York City to get it going in person so that we could connect with each other and build relationships. The timing of it was planned to be during the quiet summer months, and of course, as you know, last week we had our last city council meeting before August. So I thought it was a good time to be able to get away. Unfortunately, I had no way of knowing that there would be a shutdown of the LRT service while I was gone, but I've been working the entire time I've been gone and in constant contact with city staff, with my office, with city councilors. I've done a bunch of media interviews, so I've been working the whole time that I've been here, even though the conference has been going on.
Well, let's talk about our LRT, Mayor Sutcliffe. Obviously disappointing, the fact that they, had to shut it down at 5 p.m. during rush hour, had a lot of people scratching their head. Do you think they made the right decision?
I think it was the right decision. We have to act with an abundance of caution. We have to constantly be thinking about the safety of our passengers, and if there's any risk at all, if there are any faults in the system that are detected, we have to be incredibly cautious. So the last thing we want is another derailment or any other event like that. So I think it was the right decision, and everyone supported it. And now we have to figure out what the cause of this issue was and what the implications are, how soon we can get the service back up and running, and how we fix these long-term issues. Like everyone else, I'm incredibly, incredibly frustrated with what's been going on. We are not getting the service that we paid for. The first phase of light rail cost taxpayers $2.1 billion, and we're not getting what we paid for. And we are going to continue to work on this and demand answers from the contractors and improvements to the system and fixes for the problems until we have the system that we paid for.
Mayor Sutcliffe, does this not sound like the same issue that we had 2 years ago?
It's hard to tell at this point.
Okay.
So I'll let the engineers. There are similarities, obviously, and but I don't want to be an amateur engineer in this process and rely on small pieces of data to draw broad conclusions. They'll do their work, and we have great people at OC Transpo who are working very, very hard. And this is incredibly frustrating to them as well. They work hard to provide great service to the people of Ottawa every day. And these kinds of setbacks are incredibly difficult for them. They're demoralizing, but they work so hard to identify the problems and work with the contractors. And by the way, we're following all of the recommendations from the inquiry that came out last fall. So the kinds of testing regimes that are in place now, the level of safety, the level of caution, that's all that's all similar to what was recommended to us by the inquiry. So we're doing all of that work, and we'll figure out what the cause of this issue was, and ensure that the contractors resolve it, and get back to delivering light rail service to our customers.
In speaking about this, throughout the week, filling in for Sam here, a lot of people, have been making the suggestion that we've had on, saying, hey, you know what, why don't we just scrap this whole thing? Like, why don't we tell this company, the manufacturer, you know what, take your trains back and give us some new trains. There's obviously consequences to doing something like that, because I gave the example earlier this week that, if somebody comes to renovate my home and they do a poor job and things aren't as they were meant to be, they come back and they have to fix it for free because we have a binding contract. I'm guessing there's probably clauses in that contract that we won't be privy to that won't allow us to say, you know what, if it's the track's problem, well, then you tear up the track, you put in new ones. If it's the train problem, you send the trains back and you give us new ones. Are there consequences to something like that?
Yeah, so it's complicated, obviously, but at a basic level, Derek, look, someday soon we're going to have the service we deserve and the service we paid for. The path to that is what's being evaluated and discussed right now, which is, what kinds of engineering solutions can we bring to this? Are there fixes? If there's something wrong with the wheels on your car, you may not need a new engine, right? You might just need new wheels. I don't know that we're at the point of giving back the trains and saying replace them with new trains, but we are at the point of saying we need solutions for these recurring problems, and those solutions have got to come soon. And so, we're going to continue to work with our contractors to fix these problems. That's what it's all about. And by the way, in the last week, I've spoken with mayors from all over North America who have had major transit infrastructure projects that took longer than expected to implement, that had problems, growing pains, that had issues. And so we're not alone in this. There's a train line in Toronto that's going through similar challenges. And so, that's no comfort to Ottawa residents who want to be able to take the train today and can't. But I think it's important to note that these kinds of things happen with infrastructure projects, and there are people who are experts who can fix these things, and we have to rely on them to fix it. And if they can't fix it, then we go to the next level of saying, well, what's the solution if it can't be fixed?
Right. As you know, Premier Doug Ford was in town making a big announcement, which, was exciting news. But he was asked about the LRT and his thoughts on it, because, of course, the province gives us a lot of money. He blamed it on the previous council and previous Mayor Watson, and called it a mess. I know you have a good working relationship with him, and actually, I think a lot of people are surprised the working relationships that he has with, Justin Trudeau, and I don't think a lot of people thought that would necessarily be a good working relationship, but it is. So you have a good working relationship. Is there any concern that the province, just seeing what a mess this has become, that they would be reluctant in helping us fund further projects when it comes to our public transit system?
Well, look, Derek, I'm not prepared to put any more taxpayers' money into another phase of light rail until all of these problems are resolved, right? So I'm in the same position as Doug Ford. I'm not going to support putting Ottawa taxpayers' money into phase 3 until we know phase 1 and phase 2 are working properly and we're getting the system we paid for. So. Okay. Doug Ford and I are in complete agreement on this, and I speak to him regularly. He's very supportive. He's very understanding, but and I totally get his point of view. His government invested a lot of money in this system. So did the city of Ottawa, and until we get value for that money, we can't talk about another phase.
Another brewing controversy that we've talked about here on the show. David Smith in the Talkback Hour. He had a lot of calls about it. Of course, Rob Snow with Wake Up with Rob Snow has been talking about that. And, this is, you sparked some debate about Queen Elizabeth driveway. Jeff Leeper sort of countered, some of your musings about Queen Elizabeth driveway. Let's look at that yet again. Mayor Sutcliffe, because I guess this was from personal observations. You were talking about the fact that, not a lot of people tend to be using it during the week.
Yeah, I guess what I would say, Derek, is I support active transportation, as people call it, biking, walking, cycling, running, all of that. I support people getting around any way they choose. And I think there are lots of places in the city where we close roads to vehicles on Sundays, on Saturdays, on holidays, and it's great for everyone, and it doesn't create significant traffic impacts. With Queen Elizabeth Drive on one specific stretch from Pretoria to Fifth Avenue, if you close that down on weekdays, it creates a lot of traffic pressures, and the City of Ottawa staff, the experts at the City of Ottawa, have identified those concerns and pointed them out to the NCC. If they close Queen Elizabeth Drive north of Pretoria Bridge, it doesn't create those kinds of impacts. But between Pretoria Bridge and Fifth Avenue, it creates a lot of impacts. And my observation is that we can have a scenario where we've got beautiful pathways right next to the canal that cyclists and pedestrians can use. And then we've got a road that cars can use in an area that's already very congested, where there's a major event center and where there's a lot of residents, and there's emergency vehicles that are trying to respond to calls in a timely fashion. If you take that whole area and you make the pathways and the road only for pedestrians and cyclists, it creates all kinds of traffic pressures, and emergency vehicles have a harder time getting to their destinations to respond to calls in a timely fashion. And so my view is, let's keep it open to everybody. Let's have space for cars. Let's have space for cyclists and pedestrians. And let's not create those kinds of traffic pressures.
Here's what Councillor Jeff Leeper said. He went on to say, it needs to be clarified that your stated views are not Ottawa City Council policy. It is inappropriate that you would use your platform as mayor and board membership to advocate behind closed doors for such a regressive position. It is particularly upsetting that the mayor of our city would advocate to reverse a real safety gain, of which we have made too few for residents who travel by active modes. What's your reply to those comments from Councillor Leeper?
So I understand that Councillor Leeper doesn't agree with me about how Queen Elizabeth Drive should be used, and I respect that. And he and I have had a couple of conversations about that this week, and we have a different point of view. Since Councillor Leeper made the comments about me advocating behind closed doors, I spoke to him, and I think he understands now that I'm not doing anything behind closed doors that I'm not doing publicly, and that I'm simply repeating the position of city staff that there are traffic implications to closing Queen Elizabeth Drive between Fifth Avenue and Pretoria Bridge. And that's not inappropriate. City staff have already communicated that to the NCC repeatedly. I'm just communicating it again, that there are traffic implications and that it causes slower response times for emergency vehicles, which is a real concern. Again, I think this is not a broad ideological choice between buses and between bicycles and cars. We can make room for both of them. In one scenario, the scenario I'm proposing, there's space for cars and there's space for cyclists and pedestrians. In the scenario the NCC is not just proposing but carrying out right now, there's only space for pedestrians and bicycles. There's no space for cars. And when you look at the city of Ottawa and you consider the people who live throughout this city, people who live in Greeley and people who live in Carp and people who live in Kinburn and Navan and Orleans and Barrhaven, people use their cars to get around. We have to acknowledge that. Would it be better if more and more people were using active transportation? Of course, and we're providing space for that. I'm just saying this one section that's a couple of kilometers long is not the best place to do that. The benefits are not worth the cost.
Mayor Sutcliffe, really appreciate the time. And I encourage you actually to listen to our next guest, because we have a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering from Carleton University joining us on the show to discuss the ongoing shutdown. And I think he believes it is possible to solve the problem by developing and applying some relevant technologies, is what he says. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, he's not there on the ground looking at what the issue is, but just thought you might be interested in staying staying tuned for that. Mayor Sutcliffe, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Anytime, Derek. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well. That is Mayor Mark Sutcliffe joining us here on the Sam Laprade Show. As mentioned, Peter Liu, professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at Carleton University, will be with us after the break talking about this ongoing shutdown and perhaps having some ideas on how this issue can be fixed sooner rather than later. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
In countries surrounding Sudan and across parts of Eastern Africa, millions of people are at risk of losing everything, even their lives. Conflict, climate, and hunger are forcing people from their homes and causing families and communities to struggle for survival. The Humanitarian Coalition is present, providing food, water, shelter, and medical care. Please donate today at together.ca, and your donation will be matched by the Government of Canada. That's together.ca.
Heartbeat of Mother Earth, I feel you and embrace your warmth. I see you dancing through the trees. Your song floats on the summer breeze. Community, we come together. We are the voice of our ancestors. Thankful for how much you bless us. Feel the thunder in the drum. All our voices sing as one. Feel the power, feel the pride. Feel the drumbeat deep inside. Feel the boom, feel the bass. Let's let go of time and space. It'll make you dance, it'll make you sing. Ode Wegun, Wadok Wishin. The drum will lead you, take you far. Always remember who you are.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam off for a couple of weeks. Derek Fage here from Rogers TV filling in for Sam. Thanks for spending some of your morning. We were just speaking to Mayor Mark Sutcliffe about a number of subjects. Of course, included in that was our LRT, or lack thereof, as it's been shut down now since Monday at 5 p.m. Our next guest is here to talk about these unexpected bearing issues, and I believe he wants to talk about a possible solution. Peter Liu is a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at Carleton University. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us, Peter. So, Tell us a little bit about, you've obviously been following this, I imagine, very, very closely. What are your thoughts? As I understand it, you believe that there's a solution out there.
Yeah, kind of. I can see a good potential that could be solved for the long run. So I noticed this news actually on Monday, this past Monday. And I heard from the report that it's because bearing issue. And then I told myself, oh yeah, I have been working on fault detection for bearings for many years, starting from my PhD at the University of Waterloo.
Okay.
So I think I probably can do something for the city. So that's why, I showed my interest. I think, bearings are pretty widely used in mechanical transmission systems, and it will fail from time to time, although at a very low rate.
Okay.
So I think, but once something happens, it will cause a lot of problem. Now it's to the commuters in the city of Ottawa. So I'm thinking that there could be a possible way to handle these things, to provide a real-time monitoring system for the bearing system on the train.
How easy is it to implement something like that, do you think?
On the front, it could take some time because we need first a team, right? A technical team to work on that and to do more investigation to develop such kind of a system. Commercially available condition monitoring systems may be available, but they are usually from the bearing providers or the train providers, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's possible, especially if we talk about if these bearings is from a big manufacturer, for example, SKF. They may already have online condition monitoring system for real trains.
So this monitoring system then would what? It would enable the defects to be detected like
at a
quickly?
Early stage.
I see.
Yeah. For example, now we are facing, based on the report, I'm not in the technical committee for this LRT. Okay. And I have not got any chance to do a field check. But only based on what I collected, based on the report, seems now is because the play between the bearing components is over the threshold. That could cause, some concern.
Have you reached out? Have you reached out to the city, Professor?
I try, so that's why I try to reach the city of Ottawa or any stakeholders of LRT through the Carleton University. That's why you got my contact.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, exactly. Professor Liu, I really appreciate the time. I wish I had more time. We got to get to our news, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, take care. That's Professor Peter Liu with the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department at Carleton University. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hi, I'm Paula Roy, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back into my kitchen for another season of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. My approach to food is pretty straightforward. Fancy is fine, but when you're in a time crunch or have a really hungry and patient family to feed, I say simple recipes made with wholesome ingredients that you probably have on hand are the best. And that's exactly what you'll find on Paula Roy's Favorite Foods on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
One for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. Right now, 21 degrees, mostly cloudy in Ottawa, 22 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Legendary American singer Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96 in New York City. ABC's Bill Dale sat down with Bennett years ago and asked him how he would like to have been remembered.
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a good singer and a good painter. I can't ask for more than that. I've been a very fortunate guy.
Now, he's released more than 70 albums and won 19 Grammys. He has died at the age of 96. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is at the UN in New York today to take part in the World Law Congress. He's going to be highlighting the importance of the rule of law in maintaining peace around the world. Trudeau will be presenting the World Peace and Liberty Award to the European Commission, as well as meeting with the UN Secretary General today. And it's back at the bargaining table for Hydro Ottawa workers. Hundreds of workers walked off the job back in June after their contract expired in March. Earlier this week, the two sides did meet, and the head of Hydro says that they're committed to reaching a balanced and responsible agreement. City News Time, it's 10:33. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam will be back in another week. I'm back next week, and then Sam will be back in the big chair, the hot seat. Well, we've been talking healthcare, we've talked nursing, we've talked wages. We finally have some news to share. I'll let my next guest share that news. I mean, you heard it during our newscast as well. This is excellent news for Ontario nurses. I'm joined by Erin Aris. She is a registered nurse and president of the Ontario Nurses Association. Good morning, Erin.
Good morning, Derek.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time today. As I said, I'll let you share that news in case people did not hear it during our newscast. Let's talk about the good news for nurses in the province of Ontario.
Well, we had an arbitrated decision come yesterday, late in the afternoon, which is a step in the right direction. The first step for Ontario's nurses and healthcare professionals, that we can see a ray of hope on the horizon.
Right.
We achieved a significant wage increase. In my 20 years, I haven't seen anything like this, that's for sure.
Obviously, Erin, disappointed that it had to get to the point of an arbitrator stepping in. For those that aren't aware of why this has come to be, an arbitrator having to step in, maybe you could walk us through this process.
The hospital sector nurses in Ontario do not have the right to strike. So what happens is we go to the bargaining table, and when we can't reach an agreement with the Ontario Hospital Association, we have no other recourse than to put it before an arbitrator, and in this case, arbitrator Kaplan.
And so let's talk about the Kaplan's decision in the arbitration. Tell us about what he finally came up with as a fair wage increase.
Well, the arbitrator reworked our compensation grid, our wage grid, and assigned an average of 4.5% increase to the grid that was existing. And then on top of that, gave an increase of 3.5%. And then next April 1st, hospital nurses in Ontario will receive an additional 3%. So that is, in total, 11% increase.
Let's look at quickly, Aaron, as well, Bill 124 and where that situation stands. An Ontario court found Bill 124 unconstitutional late last year, but the government has appealed that, correct?
That is correct. The court did find that it was unconstitutional in the fall last year, and I'd like to say that we thought it was from the beginning, as we were one of the primary parties in that case against Bill 124. So now the Ford government has appealed that ruling by the judge, by the court, and we are waiting for the determination to come on that appeal.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Aaron, I should have you describe Bill 124 just in case we have some listeners that aren't aware of what that bill contains.
Well, Bill 124 was an impressive piece of legislation that capped provincially funded nurses' wage increases to 0.98% for 3 years. And that was while the pandemic raged across the globe, but certainly in Ontario.
What was the reasoning behind that? What did the province tell the public and tell nurses the reasoning behind Bill 124?
Bill 124 was to keep healthcare costs down, to keep wages down. But what it did was to create a crisis in healthcare, and we saw a mass exodus of nurses in Ontario to other provinces in particular, but also across the globe and into the United States.
Outside of this wage increase with Kaplan's arbitration here and sorting that, was there anything else as part of this?
Yes, there was.
Like benefits and working hours and that kind of thing?
There were some premiums attached to those who take on leadership roles within departments or units, but certainly one of the landmark parts of this settlement or decision was isolation pay. Finally, this is really trailblazing in healthcare. So when nurses are ill, become ill at work, just like they did, thousands of us became ill, myself included, during COVID, we will now have isolation pay, where we can stay home and not have the financial burden of being off without pay.
I get the feeling in speaking with you, you don't believe that this fight is over, Aaron.
No, I think to the contrary. This has been very much a catch-up decision. This is, as I've said before, righting the wrongs of the past several years for nurses. The fight has just begun. We will be looking at other things in the future, certainly around compensation for our nurse practitioners, which is a huge priority for us.
Can you expand on that for me, Aaron?
Well, we tabled, and it has always been a priority for ONA to represent our nurse practitioners fairly.
Right.
And in this round of bargaining, we tabled a centralized wage grid for them so that they could have consistent compensation across the province. The Ontario Hospital Association was not willing to entertain that, and the arbitrator didn't grant that in his decision. But we will be working toward that again in next round, and we'll be working up toward that. I can also say that patient ratios, like they have in British Columbia, that we're seeing in some of the maritime provinces now, we will be looking to that. That is the best practice for safe patient care.
There were a couple of announcements this week, as you know, when it comes to funding healthcare. Big announcement by the Ford government for, pediatric care, emergency room dollars coming in. As far as an association, are you encouraged when you see that kind of funding increase happen?
I would be more encouraged if the Ford government spent their entire healthcare budget on healthcare. They have a surplus of billions of dollars, and we would like to see the investment broadly across healthcare. But I wouldn't want to dismiss the fact that we desperately need an investment in the emergency departments and pediatrics. I think it's a good start.
Yeah, of course. Aaron, I was speaking to a nurse earlier this week as well, or another representative of nurses earlier this week, and we were discussing mental health and burnout, and just from your conversations, with your colleagues, how are nurses feeling these days in this province?
Nurses are demoralized and exhausted, but I think this award is a step in the right direction to give them at least a bit of respect that we are more than deserving of. I can tell you, I was a frontline nurse in an emergency department in the pandemic myself. So my member's story is also my story.
Right.
I have felt the same fatigue and burnout and dismay that we all feel.
Yeah. Aaron, because you've experienced that, I wonder if you just take a moment to just describe, so people have an understanding of what you've gone through, in particular during the pandemic. You mentioned that, emergency room. What was that like at the height of the pandemic?
It's hard to really put into words what we experienced. To see your colleagues break under the pressure, to be without protection, to be subject to violence daily, to scrutiny, and also to see our patients come in the worst condition possible, not once per shift, but several times per shift. It really took its toll. And all the while, you mentioned Bill 124 earlier, all the while having our wages suppressed. It has been the worst period of certainly my career, but I think we are moving on, we are moving up, and we will be here for Ontarians.
Aaron, do you believe, there's a staffing crisis. Do you believe that this ruling by the arbitrator will help with recruitment?
We need to have some help.
Yeah.
I think it will have an impact. Ontario is currently 24,000 registered nurses short.
Wow,
and in the hospital sector alone, there are over 9,000 vacancies. So this will be a start and a step in the right direction to help stabilize that.
Aaron, I really appreciate your time, and certainly have the greatest respect for your field and what you've gone through, and you're looking after the most vulnerable people in all of our communities across the province, across the country as well. Let's the nurses across the country, they've all gone through the same thing. Really appreciate you joining us today, Aaron. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, take care. That's registered nurse and president of the Ontario Nurses Association, Aaron Aris. I should tell you, Coming up, we may be giving away some tickets at some point during the show. Remember, we have tickets to the Kempville Live Music Festival. It kicked off yesterday. It runs until Sunday. Some big names: Colin James, Blue Rodeo, Melissa Etheridge. Wake Up with Rob Snow gave away a couple of tickets earlier today to see Blue Rodeo. We've got a couple of tickets to give away coming up, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. It could be coming up at any moment. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
We all start on different bases, and only some of us make it safely home. Anyone can get stuck on first, without a clear path to home base. There are over 235,000 Canadians experiencing homelessness every year. Raising the Roof is on a mission to help all those in need find a safe place to call home. With every purchase of a Raising the Roof baseball cap, you are helping us get one step closer to ending homelessness in Canada. Visit raisingtheroof.org to get yours today, because everyone deserves a home base.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hi, I'm Meg from Fit Over 50, and I'm here with Fit Finley. I want to invite you to join my upcoming workout, which is focused on upper body and lower body stretches. No equipment is required. All you'll need is a chair. Hope to see you there.
Fit Over 50 with Meg, weekday mornings at 8:30 on Rogers TV.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam off, Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in. By the way, Daytime Ottawa live today. We're doing it live on Friday. It's been running some repeats. We take a bit of a hiatus. But we've put together sort of some best ofs for you. But today we have a live show, so make sure you tune in after the Sam Laprade Show. I head over there, and we're live from 2 to 3 p.m. today. Got a great show for you. Carl Wolf, actually, that was on with us yesterday here on City News. He'll be on with me today on Daytime Ottawa. Let's talk some housing. I know that David Smith and Rob Snow talked a little housing earlier this week. Some information gleaned from ratehub.ca, just looking at, how much you need to earn to buy a home in Canada. And they list, a number of cities, including Ottawa. Average home price in January of 2022, this across, they look at this across the country. In Ottawa, average home price in January 2022 was $676,100. In January 2023, that went down to $603,900. So that's a drop. That's a change in home prices between January 2023 and 2022, a drop of $72,200 on average. Fairly big drop. But what does it look like right now in real time? What is going on? Well, Nick Crouch has those answers. He's a broker with Real Broker Ontario Limited. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Derek. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Well, it's Friday. I mean, how could I not be doing great, right? Exactly. The weekend's just around the corner for me.
Yes, sir, it is.
What does let's look at listings here in Ottawa. Paint the picture for us here, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of piggyback off what you were talking about in regards to the price drop from last year to this January, it's important to remember that those numbers are including everything in the Ottawa area.
Yes.
So the numbers I'm about to give you are for Ottawa proper, so they are going to be higher. I don't want your listeners to be too alarmed, though. They are a little bit lower still regardless, but these numbers are for Ottawa proper. So right now for this week, we're looking at about 264 average listings, a little bit of an uptick from last week's 244.
Okay.
Number of conditional sales, we're at 120 this week as opposed to 98 last week. For number of sold properties, we have 162 versus our 132 of last week. And our average list price was $770,000. So that's probably about a $50,000 decrease from last week. But that's not any one particular reason. It's usually because there was just a higher sale property last week that tends to skew the average a little bit.
I see. Okay.
Our average sold price was $758,000. So it was about 98.4% of the total list price, which is on par for what we've been seeing for the last handful of weeks. Our average days on market, so that's from the day it was listed at the price that it sold at.
Okay.
We had 21 days, and then you have an average cumulative days of 29 days. So a lot of people have probably seen that sometimes listings get canceled or they show up with a new price, even though most people will not see how many total days it has been on market. Us as real estate agents, we're actually able to see how many total days it's been listed, period. So your average cumulative days is sitting at 29. For our median list price, we're at $699,000. Our median sold price at $697,000, bringing us to a grand total of 99.6% of the list price. And our median days on market at 14 and our median cumulative days on market at 15.
Okay.
And that's for freehold properties.
So Nick, is this like at this time of year, are these, for numbers that you're sharing with me now, is this usual that you would see in any July? And I know that the pandemic was unprecedented times. Maybe let's ignore those, kind of 3-year period. Would this be relatively average of what we would see during this time of year?
Yeah, for the most part. And like I alluded to last week when I was on the show, I was saying basically that in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a little bit of an uptick in activity just with more inventory that's been sitting on the market getting basically bought up. And then it'll slowly kind of taper off as we head into the last week of July and the start of August as people are away for summer holidays. So you tend to usually see a drawdown in activity, both in the number of listings, but also the number of sold properties. Not necessarily an average list price or sale price, but it tends to be shown in the number of sold properties and the average days on market. And then we see that number slowly creep back up as we enter into the fall market, which is our last big push before we start getting a bunch of snow.
Do you look at the rental market at all, Nick?
I sure do.
Okay, what are we seeing there?
For you guys now. Yeah, so another thing, because I did see there was an article that was released sometime this week talking about the average price of a one-bedroom rental in Ottawa. So unfortunately, the stats that I look at aren't broken down into one bedroom versus 2 bedroom, though I may consider doing that. It's just a little bit more extra work.
Right.
But for this week, we had a total, and again, this is for Ottawa proper, a total number of 137 active listings. There was 145 listings that were rented this past week compared to last week's previous 93. So there's quite a significant jump.
Yeah.
And our average list price for a rental was about $2,572, and the average rent price was $2,583. So it's very important to understand. A lot of people tend to think that when they go into a rental, that there's usually a little bit of wiggle room. And by wiggle room, I mean sometimes they think, oh, maybe I can get it a few $100s cheaper than what it's listed for. In all the years that I've been doing that, I've maybe seen a couple of listings, rental listings that is, that have sold or rented significantly below what they were actually rented for. So that average list to rent percentage tends to be relatively even in that 99 percentile to 100% for the most part.
Okay.
Your average days on market was floating at about 21. Same with the cumulative days on market was at 23. And the median list price has been at $2,500 for the last almost 8 weeks.
Wow. So, yeah, those, and as you said, just a reminder, that's right across the board, just the average, no matter whether it's a 1, 2, 3 bedroom, that breakdown people can find as well, because there, as you said, there was a lot of media attention paid to that a little bit earlier this week.
Exactly.
Nick, as usual, always enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you as well. That's Nick Crouch, broker with Real Broker Ontario Limited. As promised, we're going to give away some tickets. The Kemptville Live Music Festival kicked off yesterday. It runs until Sunday. Some great acts include Colin James, Blue Rodeo, Melissa Etheridge. Those are some of your headliners. You could win a pair of tickets to Saturday. That's tomorrow, July 22nd, featuring Melissa Etheridge. Also on that bill is Don Tyler Watson, another great act. Full festival lineup, by the way, and to buy tickets, you can visit KemptvilleLiveMusicFestival.com. But we are going to give away some tickets for free to one lucky winner. We're going to take caller number 10 at 613-750-1310. 750-1310. Give us a call right now, caller number 10. You could go and check out Melissa Etheridge and Don Tyler Watson tomorrow at the Kemptville Live Music Festival. 613-750-1310, 750-1310, caller number 10, and we'll be back to announce the winner in just a moment. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
This is a brain in urgent need of mental health care. But because 3 out of every 4 Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, she may not get the help she needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and RogersTV.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to RogersTV.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit StopTrackTragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 21 degrees in Ottawa. Feeling more like 26. Now we do have that special weather statement in effect. Here's what's making news right now. The music world is remembering a music legend this morning. Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96. Our Caitlin Lee joins us now with a look back at his career.
One of the last great classic singers of the mid-20th century, Tony Bennett often said his lifelong ambition was to create a hit catalog instead of hit records.
It had to be you.
He won 20 Grammys over his over 7-decade career, sharing the stage and recording studio over the years with many other big names, including Judy Garland, Amy Winehouse, and near the end of his life, Lady Gaga. He also had a special friendship with his mentor, the late Frank Sinatra, who gave him the biggest compliment in 1965, saying, "For my money, Tony Bennett is the best singer in the business." Bennett told Jimmy Fallon he could never get over his friendship with Sinatra.
And he taught me that the audience are your friends. They come to see you. And he changed my whole psychology about there's no such thing as a bad audience. There's a bad performance, but there's not a bad audience.
Tony Bennett was diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2016. He would have been 97 on August the 3rd. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
Now here at home, still no date on when O-Train service could resume. So far, 15 trains were tested, but no other issues were found. Testing will continue, though, today. Now, some changes on the R1 buses. Buses that will now use Albert and Slater instead of Queen Street. Westbound buses will run on Albert Street with stops at Bank and Kent. Eastbound buses running on Slater this morning with stops at Kent and O'Connor. City News time, it's 11:02 now. Taking a look at your weather for today and into the weekend. Here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriachi.
Scattered showers and the risk of some thunderstorms for this afternoon, and we've got periods of rain later tonight as well, and into tomorrow. It's a bit unsettled at times. We do have sunny breaks Saturday, but there is the risk of some isolated storms. Highs near 24. Special statements in place, so some communities could see 30 to 50 millimeters over the course of the day today. The guaranteed high, 23.
Right now, 21 degrees in Ottawa, 22 in Smiths Falls. That special weather statement is in effect. Now, if you're heading near Hunt Club and Pike this morning, the eastbound lane is closed. That section is closed because of a broken water main. It's reduced to one lane, and police are asking people to follow the signs if they're heading that way today. Now, call it the Battle of the Bombshells. Barbie and Oppenheimer hitting theaters today, pitting an iconic doll against the inventor of the atom bomb for the box office today. Our Jamie Pulfer joins us with the details.
So what do Barbie and the man who developed the atomic bomb have in common? They're the focus of this summer's most highly anticipated blockbusters. It's opening weekend for Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Get that Barbie!
You are the man who gave them the power to destroy themselves.
But is one better than the other? Our James Mackin is making a big claim.
Barbie is easily the best film that this film critic has seen all year.
Together, these powerhouse movies could mean a $200 million box office weekend, perhaps the biggest since before the pandemic. In this country, Cineplex says almost 350,000 people have bought advance tickets for both movies, many planning to see both on the same day, but in what order?
I would say
say Barbie, then Oppenheimer, then Barbie again.
Barbie's Kate McKinnon with that advice, and keep in mind that double feature runs more than 5 hours. Jamie Pulfer, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. I also happen to be a huge sports fan. I love all sports. Maybe the only sport I don't really follow that carefully is car racing. That's probably about it. Which brings me to, of course, the excitement around the Women's World Cup. FIFA Women's World Cup going on. Canada, unfortunately, some are describing it as a limp effort by the Olympic champions to open up FIFA World Cup for themselves. Here to break it down further, we are joined by Associate Editor over at Sportsnet, Haley McGoldrick. Haley, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm sure you were glued to your television like many Canadians watching. How would you describe Canada's play yesterday?
I think a limp effort is a good way to describe it. There really was just no attacking threat, and it was very obvious. It looks like Canada had a bit of momentum going. The first 20-ish minutes, you get to that Christine Sinclair penalty that gets denied, really breaks the momentum, wind out of their sails. Nigeria just takes over. All credit to Canada's defense. Ashley Lawrence, Khadijah Buchanan, goaltender Kaylin Sheridan really played incredibly to keep it a 0-0 draw, but the attack just wasn't there. You saw a little tiny glimpse of it when Evelyn Viens came on. She had a great shot. It was pretty much the only good shot of the second half.
Right.
But there was just really nothing happening. The absence of Jessie Fleming was really apparent. She's a midfield maestro.
Yeah.
She really strings things together, and you could see that Julia Grasso and Quinn looked a little bit lost without her. There really wasn't a rhythm. Adriana Leon looked a little bit flashy to begin with, but then there was just nothing happening down the left. And then when Jordan Heidema moved to the left, when Evelyn Viens came on, there just wasn't really anything happening. And you just can't have no attacking threat, especially when you're going into games against Ireland and Australia. That just won't do.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jessie Fleming. I mean, as a midfielder, boy, oh boy, everyone was following so closely, right? She had sat out a couple of practices with that lower body injury, but she did take part in the team's final training session. So I think a lot of us were like, okay, we're going to see her. But obviously, I mean, do we have any update on why she ended up sitting on the bench and didn't see any action there against Nigeria?
I think it might be that the injury is a little bit more severe than we thought, which isn't great. And I do think that coming into this game, I think people underestimated Nigeria a little bit as well, which is baffling because Nigeria are an incredible team. You saw that on the pitch. They're so fast. They're not afraid to be physical. They have scoring threats. They weren't afraid to sit in that deep defensive block and frustrate Canada and just absorb that. So I think that it made a little bit of a statement to say that it's maybe a more severe injury than we're hoping, but I'm also thinking that maybe they thought Nigeria will be their least tough opponent. But to be fair to Canada and everyone in Group B, it's a very tough group. It's one of the toughest groups drawn at this World Cup.
Yeah, walk us through. Can you walk us through that, Haley, Group B, and just give us an idea of how strong that field really is?
Oh my goodness, it's so strong. You start with Australia, who they won their first game, but they were without their star player, Sam Kerr, who Sam Kerr's not just Australia's star player, she's one of the best players in women's football. They have an incredibly strong team, but also they get the advantage of playing in front of 75,000 people, which is absurd, but also goes to show how many people are investing in the women's game. Then you go to a team like Ireland, who are also tough and physical and very defensive. They have a 5-person back line. They really rely on their defense a lot. Their captain, Katie McCabe, she plays for Arsenal. She's not afraid to run through somebody. She's physical. You saw that in the game against Australia. And they're teams that aren't going to let Canada just get any chances. And you saw that against Nigeria. There was only 2 shots created from open play. There wasn't a lot going on. And we're going to see that again from Ireland and Australia. They're tough, physical teams, but they also have goal-scoring threats on both sides. So Canada's defense did a great job against Nigeria, but they're going to have to work even harder against Ireland and Australia, and they've got to figure something out offensively because having that little chances is just not acceptable. Only 3 shots on target in the whole game. That's not going to get you any goals.
Yeah, so, I mean, what's the solution there up front? I just don't understand why they just looked. I mean, you mentioned that sort of psychological blow when Sinclair misses the penalty, but, you know, you've got to be mentally tough in those situations and just forget about it, right? And move on. You know, outside of Sinclair, that, I mean, everybody knows is the household name, where are they going to look for to find those goals?
Yeah, I think when Evelyn Vienne came on, she had a half-decent opportunity, and I think she deserved to start against Ireland. That'll help a little bit. They need Fleming in there. She truly makes the difference because it's not just that she can score goals. Yes, she has 19 goals and 6 assists in 101 starts for Canada, but it's also the way that she tires out defenses. She's relentless. She'll run up and down the field. She has so much skill to be able to set her teammates up for goal-scoring chances. That was the biggest thing, too. It didn't really seem like anyone was creating anything. There was a good chance early in the game, Adriana Leon up that left flank. She drives up, and it looks like she's about to go out of bounds, and she sets something up, but then nothing comes from it, and then you don't really see another chance for Canada for another 15, 20 minutes. And so they really need not just somebody who can finish, because I think they do have a bit of talent up the front. You saw players like Chloe Lacasse came up. She knows how to finish. She's a great goal scorer, but there's not even chances being created, and that's the biggest thing, and that's really where you felt Fleming's absence.
I think you touched on it already a little bit, but let's talk about this next matchup. They're going to meet the Republic of Ireland on July 26th. What can we expect from Ireland?
They are an incredibly tough team. They are not going to give anything up easily. Like I said, they play a 5-person defense in the back, so they are not going to let Canada have any chances, which Canada barely had any chances against Nigeria. But they had to defeat Scotland in Glasgow to claim one of the final berths. They have their 5-woman back line with Louise Quinn and Niamh Fahey. They are just really defensive, and I think that's the way that they find success. They have goal scorers as well, and like I said, Katie McCabe, she's a midfielder, but she also is an incredible goal scorer. She's very tough and she'll be defensive, but she knows how to score in big games as well. And I think that this Ireland team, is their biggest thing is that they are very physical and very tough. Yeah. And Canada's going to have to put up with that. You saw that in the Nigeria game. There were a lot of yellow cards and fouls being thrown around.
Yep.
I think we're going to see a lot of the same against Ireland because they're just as tough and just as physical.
Let's look at the field in general here. I'm guessing you probably would feel the same way. You know, the favorites must be what? The USA, Germany, Sweden. Are those probably the 3 that you're looking at? Or and is there a dark horse maybe I'm leaving out of that?
Yeah, definitely the United States and Germany for sure are the biggest ones. The United States are just so deep, so talented. You look even, they're without Becky Sauerbrunn, but they have so much talent even with her absence. You've got Alex Morgan in the front, Alex Morgan is a Golden Boot front runner, but then you've also got Trinity Rodman and Sophia Smith up there. You've got Naomi Girma back in the back line playing for the San Diego Wave and now the United States, and she's a youngin', but then you've also got all of your main staples. It's Megan Rapinoe's last World Cup, so they're going to want to go out on a high. Again, with Germany, they have a lot of players like Alex Popp and Lena Oberdorf who were just in the Champions League final with Wolfsburg. Germany, 2-time World Cup champions, they have a lot to play for, and they're so talented as well. I think one of the darker horses is Spain, because I think Spain has a good group draw, but they also obviously have so many amazing players. Alexia Putellas, she's a Ballon d'Or winner, Champions League winner with Barcelona, one of the best women's football players we've ever seen. And they've got a decent draw because Japan's an incredibly quick, talented team. They're going to have a really hard game against Japan. But then they've got Zambia, and they've already beat Costa Rica, beat them 3-0. Pretty big statement opening win. So I think Spain is up there as well because they're not only talented, but they also did get a half-decent draw out of their group. That's one of the benefits of the doubt I will give Canada. They seem to have one of the harder groups out of every group. But, Spain is another one that's up there, but I think England's another one that's up there, too. They do have a lot of injuries that they have to deal with from the Euros. You know, Beth Mead, who is the top scorer of that tournament. Beth Mead's not playing. Leah Williamson, England captain, she's not playing. But I think England's still a team that has a decent amount of depth to do well. but they are suffering with a little bit of injuries. Isn't every team? We're all dealing with some injuries. Canada doesn't have to mean Becky and Desiree Scott, so Canada could say the same thing. But I think the United States are the favorite, but for good reason. They don't just have all their veterans coming back from 2019. They've re-upped with so much young talent. They are just such a force, but it would be nice to see somebody else win it and block the three-peat.
Yeah, no kidding. Really appreciate the time today, Haley. Thank you so much. You're such a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take care. That is Haley McGoldrick, Associate Editor over there at Sportsnet. Of course, you can find all the information about what's happening at the World Cup. Head over to sportsnet.ca to find out more. Lots more coming up. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
We were born in Canada. We spoke English. On the streets, we weren't welcome. But on the field, we were the Asahi. Vancouver's champions. Everyone cheered for us. Our people had a voice. Then Canada declared war on Japan. They took us from our homes, called us enemies, forced us into camps. But we brought the game with us. Baseball helped get us through the internment.
The Vancouver Asahi were among the 22,000 Japanese Canadians interned during the Second World War. The team never played another game.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam. Well, if you head over to ottawa.citynews.ca, you'll see all those great news stories that we cover here on City News. And the gentleman that's responsible for that sits across from me right now. City News web editor Neil Jolly joining us back on the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. You know, this is the dog days of summer. Rob Snow and I were talking about this. We're like, oh, you know, it's the dog days of summer. And I wonder, you know, the first thing this week on Monday, we're like, geez, you know, there's nothing happening. There's no news. Oh, and then the LRT shuts down during rush hour. at 5 p.m. And of course, you've been following this. Neil, your thoughts on this other, another disaster with the O train?
It's just another day that ends in Y when it comes to the LRT, right, Derek?
Yeah.
Look, it's becoming a habit now. I think with our system here at LRT, and we had the mayor on this morning, and you can sense his frustration as well. For me, it's the people that solely rely on this system that have to get around. You have to wonder what they're thinking about, and the accessibility issues for other people having to, get off here, walk here, do this, do this, do this. At what point are we going to say, you know what, take it back?
Yeah, I brought that up to Mayor Sutcliffe, and I brought that up during lunch with Derek yesterday.
Yep.
We had a couple of guests, as we always do, and talking about the the issues of the day, and that's what I said. Like if somebody comes, I think I mentioned this to you in the newsroom. If somebody comes to your house and they've got a job to do, they're renovating your kitchen, and they don't do it correctly, they have to come back and fix it for free.
Exactly.
However, Walter Robinson and Tim Powers I had on yesterday, and they both pointed out with a contract probably that we have to actually tell the manufacturer whether it's maybe it's the rails, maybe it's the train. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
But either of those things, if we say, listen, it's garbage, rip it up and replace it. The train's garbage, take them all back and give us new ones. But they said the complication with that is we don't know what's in that contract because they're not allowed to share
we won't
the
be privy to
information.
that
We
at
won't
all.
be privy to it whatsoever. No. So what are the consequences of doing that? It's probably, Tim and Walter mentioned yesterday, it would cost us tens of millions of dollars, most likely, if not into the hundreds of millions of dollars.
But look at now the consequences are being rippled towards the people that rely on this system.
Yes.
Right? At what point are we going to start saying this becomes a safety issue? We don't want to say it, but what happens if another derailment happens?
Yeah,
we
I
are
know.
talking about the safety of people on that train. And there are thousands of people in this city that rely on that system to get from point A to point B that don't have, that don't drive.
Yeah.
Can't drive. So and we were really frustrated about this yesterday, talking about this in the newsroom, like you were saying. There has to be at some point where accountability has to be, the people have to be accountable, and
even if it costs hundreds of millions, right? I mean, because as you said, safety is paramount. So if you get to a situation where you're saying take them all back, give us new ones, and that's going to cost us $250 million, that could be the price of safety. I'm not, but don't tweet at me. I'm not suggesting we do that necessarily, but if it comes to that, maybe you have to. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know where we go from here, but it's just another week with LRT.
Yeah. Yeah. Another topic of discussion this week.
Yeah.
Rob's talked about it. David Smith talked back hour. He got the lines exploded. And this idea of the NCC shutting down the Queen Elizabeth driveway to that portion that I discussed with Mayor Sutcliffe earlier today. And then, we got into the Gatineau parkways as well. There's a petition that's been put up. We had the gentleman that began that petition, both on the Talkback Hour and on Wake Up with Rob Snow. What do you make of the NCC's argument that, these two spaces were meant for scenic routes, not as commuter. We know that the Gatineau Parkway isn't as, a commuter route. It would never be, of course.
Right.
But let's look at the Queen Elizabeth driveway. They're saying it was always meant to be a scenic route, not a commuter route. We're trying to fulfill the city's master plan by giving opportunities for more active transportation. What do you think?
Well, from somebody who drives, I was trying to get around last weekend, and I couldn't. You're looking at the last weekend at Blues Fest. There was a Red Blacks game. I know they opened it up for a bit, but we are trying our best to bring more people into the city and explore what we have.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Right? But look, where we are with this, it's becoming a point of, discussions need to be had. And I'm glad that we are having discussions. But at some point, people's frustrations are beginning to boil over because you have different people wanting different things at the end of the spectrum.
Right. And I will say, for those listening and you want the NCC's point of view, Toby Nussbaum did explain why in an article with the Ottawa Citizen. So if you want to check out his article and see why, he starts the article off by saying the National Capital Commission works to provide opportunities to make our capital a leader in creating the kind of livable and sustainable urban experience we can all enjoy, a motivation shared by many cities across the globe. One part of that is exploring ways for our scenic parkways to function less as commuter corridors, which they were never intended to be, and more as destinations in themselves, particularly the summer months. So, he's written an opinion piece here and giving the NCC side. So, we're fair, I think, here at City News. And listen, we actually asked him to come on both Wake Up with Rob Snow and the Sam Laprade show, and he declined our invitation. But I just wanted people to know that. Let's move on to, we're talking about bad news. Let's move on to some good news.
Good stuff.
Hey, how about the Crumback Kid?
I wanted to say it. You said it.
Dustin Crum, the fourth-string quarterback for the Ottawa Red Blacks, with an amazing comeback against the mighty Winnipeg Blue Bombers last week.
It was amazing to see, and everybody's behind this kid now.
I love it.
How did he celebrate?
Oh, yeah, pizza with his father and his grandfather, who happened to be in attendance, which was great, for his first official start, because obviously he took over when Mazzoli went down in his previous game, which he almost pulled out as well.
Yeah,
almost tied the game at at the last with no time left on the clock in that game too.
Yeah. So the Red Blacks have won at home, which is good.
2 games at home already this season,
and it seems that the Crumback Kid has sparked something in this team and something into this city and the fans, which is good. Something we've been longing for a very long time.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can keep it up. They just got to protect him now.
Yes, 100%. Right? You're talking about your fourth-string quarterback.
You need to protect him.
You're down to number 4. You need to protect him for sure. I actually spoke to a member of the ownership group of the Ottawa Red Blacks, and he was very honest with me. He said, we need to start winning home games because we are at a critical point where people are now not coming to the games because it was so abysmal. I mean, we had won like 2 out of the last 26 home games at one point, right?
Yeah.
So these 2 home game wins, absolutely critical. I spoke to Ken Averera, former CFL wide receiver, yesterday, and the important thing I asked him was, okay, this is a fun story so far. Dustin Crum, young guy, big comeback and so forth, but does he have the tools, right? I mean, he won with his legs.
Yeah.
CFL's a passing league.
You need to pass the ball, yep.
Can this kid pass? The good news is Ken Averera said, oh yeah, he's got the skills and he's got the players, the wide receivers around him that can make him successful in the passing game.
Yeah, they just got to make the plays and protect him.
Yeah, that's absolutely key.
And they got, they're right in thick of it now, 2 and 3. Right in thick of it now.
So 2 and 3.
There's time.
Calgary tomorrow, I think 7 o'clock kickoff, and then they're back in town. Can't encourage you enough to go out and support your local sports teams. They're back in town next week, I believe, against Hamilton. So let's see if we can get another home win.
It's always a fun atmosphere going to the games, too.
I love it. Before and after the game is the environment there is amazing. They have a band that plays before the game. They've got great deals, I believe, on food and beverages before the game as well, if you get there a little early. So I encourage you to do that. And Ottawa Titans, by the way, as well. They've been on a real hot streak. So if you haven't been out to the
playing well.
Yeah, the Blackjacks as well. It's been exciting.
So it's an exciting time to be an Ottawa sports fan, just because there's no Sens. We got a lot of other sports teams here to root for.
Yeah, we're waiting on some news from the Sens. They're still looking for that top 6 forward. No news on that. And then this Trent Mann firing, like the one-word sentence. There are so many.
You can tell there was no future endeavors in there, so you know that there's stuff.
There's something crazy going on there. Brent Wallace, he's been on Twitter saying, listen, there is a story here, and when he's able to tell the story, he's going to share it. I reached out to Sean Simpson, too, this morning to see if he had any insight. I haven't heard back from Sean, so maybe we'll hear something sooner rather than later. Guess what? It's shocking. I've gone over time.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. It never happens with me.
Never happens.
Yeah. Neil Jolly is our City News web editor. Have a great weekend, buddy.
You too,
Love
buddy.
talking to you. We'll be back with more. The Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage filling in. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy. In Smiths Falls, it's 22. Here's what's making news right now. Hydro Ottawa talks resuming at some point today. Hundreds of union workers walked off the job last month after their contract expired in May. Earlier this week, both sides met, but the head of Hydro saying they weren't sure how close they were to reach an agreement, but they remain hopeful that an agreement can be reached. Legendary American singer Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96 in New York City today. ABC's Bill Dell sat down with Bennett years ago and asked him how he would like to have been remembered.
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a good singer and a good painter. I can't ask for more than that. I've been a very fortunate guy.
Bennett released more than 70 albums and won 20 Grammys. He was 96. And in sports, Canada looking for positives today in the wake of their nothing lead with Nigeria in its opening match at the FIFA Women's World Cup in Australia. Canadian captain Christine St. Clair was stopped on a penalty shot in the 50th minute. Now Canada plays Ireland on Wednesday. City News time, it's 11:33. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam. Back to talk about another great success story. You know, during the Ottawa Business Journal business hour that we have here, and we highlight various businesses. We have so many fantastic businesses. One of the success stories is my next guest, owner of Angie's Models and Talent Inc., AMTI Management Inc. Angie Secla-Seymour joining us on the show this morning. Good morning, Angie. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you? I hope you're wearing pink, Derek.
I'm not actually, but I do own a lot of pink. I do own a lot of pink in my wardrobe. I should have, and I'm imagining you're referring to what looks to be most likely a huge box office hit, and that is the Barbie movie. And the interesting part of this story is one of the members of the cast, Ryan Gosling. You have a story to tell.
Yes, I discovered him at Top Hat Dance School way back in Cornwall 3 decades ago. He was 11 years old, and I go backstage and I said, "Where are your parents?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you need to act." He goes, "I don't want to act. I just want to sing and dance." And I said, "No problem. You could sing and dance at my showcase. And you can open, close, do a number in between." He goes, "All right, I'll act then."
Really?
Yes, he didn't want to act.
Unbelievable.
He's a performer. One day he modeled at the Civic Complex in Cornwall, walking down the runway. He walked halfway and turned around, and I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I can't just walk. I need to perform."
I love it. Now, do you still have any type of relationship with him now, Angie?
A little bit, not a lot.
Okay.
More with his dad than him. He's so busy. So, yeah.
It must be exciting for you, though, to find a talent like that, and to, as you said, look back and see his beginning to where he is now. Any surprise at all, just how big of a star he has become?
No, I called it from the beginning. And the first show he did, I used to work for the federal government. The first show we did, it was a fundraiser for the Hotel du Hospital, the children's ward. And that's where he performed for his first time for me. And I told people, look at him, remember the name Ryan Gosling, because he's not going to be in Cornwall for too long.
I imagine you're going to be checking out the Barbie movie.
I will.
Yeah.
I will be. Yeah.
I'm actually on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and I think when people first heard that a Barbie movie was coming out, I'm sure a lot of people sort of rolled their eyes, like, "Oh, here we go, a Barbie movie! You got to be kidding me!" Excellent reviews so far on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, as far as reviewers, certified reviewers at an 89%, audience score at 90%. A huge cast, though, right? Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig, Will Ferrell's there. I mean, it's
an all-star cast.
Yeah.
All-star, and they're all amazing. I thought the same thing. I was like, Barbie movie, why would Ryan do that? And he did it for his daughter. It was something he wanted to do for his daughter. And he's always a ham. He's always been a ham, hamming it up. I have so many videos of him hamming it up. And this is so perfect for him because he did some dark movies, and then, of course, La La Land.
Oh, I loved La La Land.
And this one is totally out of the ordinary.
Yeah. La La Land, I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, that is one of the most magical films I have watched. Maybe it was just the time that I ended up watching it with my wife and the two of us. Just the cinematography in that is so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful, just beautiful. He's an actor, his whole family hands it up. Like his uncle, Elvis Presley impersonator.
No way. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so he's always been on stage, raised in a Mormon church. He just loves the stage. He's not shy. He flirts on stage. He has charisma, more like when he's a child, like sex appeal as a young child, so everybody loved him. I remember doing a show at the Messina Mall, and the mall manager said, "Angie, could you tell Ryan Gosling to not move his hips like that? He's only 12, and he can't sing when a man loves a woman. He has to sing more age-appropriate songs." I said, I cannot tell him that. That is my job.
I love it. Angie, I want to talk more about you and
Yes.
your business, because as I said off the top, an incredible success story. How did you get into this industry in the beginning?
It was a fluke.
Really?
I never planned it. I worked for the unemployment office, being an employment counselor on 1 Water Street in Cornwall, Ontario.
Okay.
And I realized that there was a need in Cornwall for women to improve themselves, to wear makeup, to do their nails, do their hair, and for kids to know manners. So I opened up a charm and etiquette school. And that's all I was, just to teach them charm and etiquette. And we'd go for high tea. I'd have them set the table, and that's how it all started. And next thing you know, I was one of Canada's first teleworkers. And they only put it into play during COVID, where government people worked at home. I worked at home, reduced my hours from 37 to 15 because my business got really busy when I did plan it. And did that for a year or so, and then I took the golden handshake, and I've been doing this business for 34 years now.
Wow. And let's talk about the growth over the years, where you were and where you are today.
Started in Cornwall, and I rented a studio with 2 dancers, Magoo and Pascalinas, and it was my idea to open up a place where people could go and learn etiquette and also dance. So we all had our 3 businesses. We only paid $100 a month rent.
Okay. Wow.
And then I grew, so I moved out and went across the street to a bigger location by myself. And then people were coming from all over, from Ottawa, Montreal, Kingston, Messina, Burlington. So, and a lot of people from Ottawa to start their career in this industry. And then my daughter, being only 12 years old, she said, Mom, you should move to Ottawa. We should all move to Ottawa because everybody comes from Ottawa, the majority. And I said, okay. So we moved to Ottawa, and then the business grew even more. And God rest his soul, Max Keeping used to bring models to my house.
Really?
He used to scout for me.
Wow.
And bring me models to my house in Cornwall.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many success stories. I know, from working with you and of course Lou. Maybe is there one that you can share, like another standout success?
Another standout is Harriet Paul. She walked in 12 years old, 5'11". And I said, why are you here? And she goes, I heard you have connections with Disney, and I want to be a Disney star. And I said, oh, you're not a Disney star right now. You're a supermodel. So she goes, what? I don't know how to model. I said, you'll know how. We'll teach you how. So we taught her how to walk in heels, how to pose, and her first job was Calvin Klein in New York City. And she's become the face of Maybelline, Tom Ford, Joe Fresh, Sephora, name it. She's a supermodel. And I called it from the moment she knocked on my door.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your roster like now, Angie?
It's a lot of stars. There's Sam Ash Arnold as well, who's a leading actor, and I called him the next Ryan Gosling. And at 15, he did Are You Afraid of the Dark? And Ryan did Are You Afraid of the Dark? Both of them at 15 years old. And he's a next superstar. I mean, he's done so well. And there's just so many. There's Angel, Malika. Like, we're just signing contracts left and right. It's about 100 people.
Amazing.
And they're all working. The majority is working. Whoever wants to do this and puts in the work, they could do it. But the people that think it's easy, as you know, it's not easy.
No.
There's a lot of rejection. 99% is rejection. And it's how you pick yourself up to keep going to the next step.
I just, thinking of how difficult it is, I certainly remember going to those auditions and, the stress involved and that kind of thing. How do you work with your clients, the people that you represent to get them in a place where you finally get to that comfort zone, Angie?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of handholding. During COVID, during the lockdown, I sent out an inspirational, motivational emails every single day. And just to teach them more about the industry and inspire them. And now, since COVID, the industry has become a lot easier. Before COVID, you had to leave your job or leave school to drive to Toronto or Montreal on a day's notice or less, or the morning of, to go to an audition for a 3-minute audition, if that, and then drive back home, then drive back for the callback, and then drive back if you booked it. And if you didn't book it, oh well, then you're out of so much money for gas. Now you pick up your phone, you have a ring light, and you do a self-tape or on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, and
totally different.
Absolutely, and it's we're so fortunate we're able to do that, because you just described my life. And I had a job, so if they said, oh, there's an audition for you tomorrow, to get out of my job wasn't easy, right? To go to Montreal or Toronto for an audition. Angie, congratulations to you and Lou, and just what a great success story. And thanks for sharing that story about Ryan Gosling. I'm looking forward to seeing that film.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Pink.
You got it. That's a guarantee. Thanks again, Angie. Appreciate the time. That's Angie Secla-Seymour, Angie's Models and Talent Inc., AMTI Management Inc. I can't say enough about what a great couple, what a great success story that is. You can find them, by the way, amtimanagement.com online. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Page filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Page, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays, with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It was John's graduation. We were so proud. We all got together for a picnic. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and we listened. It helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of John, because now he has a real future to look forward to.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in from Rogers TV. I couldn't think of a better segue. We go from talking to Angie Sekla-Seymour about discovering Ryan Gosling those many years ago when he was 11 years old, and here he is acting in what appears like it's going to be a huge box office hit in the movie Barbie, which brings me to movie reviewer Keith Whittier, who joins us here on the show. Hey, good morning, Keith.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Not too bad at all, thanks.
I was saying to Angie, it was just a great story talking to her, but when I heard the fact that the movie Barbie was coming out, I kind of rolled my eyes and went, "Oh, you got to be kidding!" And then I started finding out a little bit more about it, and I'm like, "Wow, this actually might be a movie I might want to see." Let's just listen into a little bit of Barbie here before we talk about it.
Okay.
This is the real world. What's going on? Why are these men looking at me?
Yeah, they're also staring at me.
Barbie in the real world. That's impossible.
If this got out, this could mean extremely weird things for our world. This would be catastrophic!
Tell me about this film.
Absolutely. So when this first got announced, a while ago, I'm thinking, okay, I'll see it, but it's probably not going to be for me, But that being said, it was a very entertaining film.
Really?
Went and saw it Wednesday night at a packed screening.
Okay.
You couldn't have found a more diverse group watching it. The only thing is 90% of the people there seem to be wearing pink. Anyways, so you've got Margot Robbie playing Barbie, and she's in her Barbie land world with all the other Barbies and Ken, played by Ryan Gosling. Something happens, and then she has to go to the quote-unquote real world to right this wrong that has happened. Overall, I thought it was a very strong film. Greta Gerwig, the director, teamed with her partner Noah Baumbach to write a very intelligent script. A lot of times when you have such anticipation around a movie like this, you think, okay, well, is it going to be able to deliver? And the answer is absolutely.
Wow.
I saw a crowd leaving that very enthusiastic, very excited about it. And I have to tell you, I was very, very impressed. Even from things like the set decoration and the production design, there are very vibrant colors on screen. I've been asked, is this for kids? And to that, I would say there are some jokes that are more mature themed, but I think those jokes will just go over, the typical 7-year-old's head, respectfully.
Right.
It does have a message. It is, some people have said, oh, is it a feminist movie? And I'm like, yeah, but that's okay. It does drive home some very interesting points. And how can it not be? We've got Barbie here. So
yeah.
I thought the movie was done very well. And yes, while I do think there will be a lot of, GNOs, or I like to call them girls' night outs, heading to the theater, I think that the men that you might be thinking they're being pulled kicking and screaming, I think they're going to enjoy it as well. I think this is a movie that really appeals to a wide audience.
I'm so impressed to hear that. I cannot wait to see it now. Thank you for that. Let's talk about our next film that's also getting a lot of great reviews and a lot of talk, and that's Oppenheimer.
Secret laboratory. Keep everyone there until it's done. Let's go recruit some scientists. Build a town, build it fast. If we don't let scientists bring their families, we'll never get the best.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
All right, Keith, let's dive into this one. What did you think?
The last movie we talked about, it was very clearly we're talking about a Barbie movie. This one, make no mistake, is absolutely 100% a Christopher Nolan film. The director is one of two working directors right now, the other one being Denis Villeneuve, who really knows how to use the IMAX technology. That being said, his last film, Tenet, seemed to alienate a lot of people because you couldn't hear it. There were so many issues with sound. Not the case here. Okay. I like to say that he's redeemed himself. This is a very strong film. It's 3 hours long, and at times it feels it, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay. But it's a deep dive into to J. Robert Oppenheimer, who, of course, created the atomic bomb. Cillian Murphy, who I don't know has had any major lead roles from a theatrical standpoint, really shines in this film. But he's supported by an outstanding cast that includes Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., just to name a few. But what you're really seeing is the vision of Nolan. This is a film that I believe you need to see in IMAX. 99% of the time, IMAX, I will say, is a money grab. not when Nolan and Villeneuve are involved. You're getting jump scares, not because of anything that's happening on screen specifically, but just how he incorporates sound into the film. I think the story is well laid out, and for the most part, the timing works. I was also blown away by the editing of this film. I thought the film editor definitely deserves a shout out, because just splicing all the scenes together and just really enhanced the story. So these are two movies that we've been waiting for them to be released on the same day. I know we've got the whole Barbieheimer, meme going on. They're two incredibly different films, but they're also both very entertaining.
Oh, looking forward to that. Again, Oppenheimer. Let's go to our last one. It's called Deepest Breath.
Freediving is one of the world's deadliest extreme sports.
It's very simple. The deepest dive wins.
You gotta swim the length of a 70-story skyscraper.
3, 2, 1.
Freediving is an extreme sport. And extreme sports have extreme consequences.
The Deepest Breath. This is on Netflix, correct, Keith?
Absolutely. Several years ago, we were introduced to this wonderful film called Free Solo, about a gentleman who was really passionate about climbing mountains without any sort of harnesses or things of that nature. Now we're going the other way. We've got a group of people who are interested in free diving, and they dive into the depths of the ocean, basically to, in some instances, like the height of the Statue of Liberty, but underground. And they're doing that without any breathing equipment. I have no idea why somebody would want to do this, but here I was watching it. Don't try this at home. Definitely, applies here. But watching this, it was beautifully shot. The cinematography is great. And one of the things I took away from this is that the community that's involved with this free diving, it's a very close-knit community. It takes a special person to want to do that. I think this is a very well-made documentary. I think it's a little different than what we usually talk about here, but I think that it definitely deserves a watch. So for anybody who doesn't want to deal with the massive crowds this weekend for Barbie or Oppenheimer, no, you can stay home and watch The Deepest Breath.
Yeah, it really does look fascinating. I saw the trailer, and as you said, the film work is just beautifully done. And I imagine there's probably a lot of suspense throughout this documentary as well, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a really great job of building tension. And it's something to watch and to behold from an outsider point of view, because I don't know about you, but that is not my world. So watching it and checking it out, I thought it was very, very interesting. And sometimes, I'm good being on the couch just watching the other people do the crazy stuff. But it was pretty interesting stuff. And again, like I said, it's a beautifully shot movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just got my scuba diving certification back in March, because my wife has had hers since 1985. So I figured I better catch up finally and get mine. And I mean, even that, right, is that you go through a stressful situation and you have breathing equipment. So I can't imagine what this is like. As always, really appreciate the time, Keith. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. That is Keith Whittier, movie reviewer. Have a great weekend, Keith. We got lots more coming up. It's Lunch with Derek coming up after the break. A few topics to discuss with our guests, so stay tuned for that. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Hey, man. Want to go for a ride?
Sure. Toss me a life jacket.
I'm gonna need this. I'm gonna need this.
Nope.
I'm gonna need this. And this.
I think we should stay here. I thought you used to play ball.
Hi, I'm Paula Roy, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back into my kitchen for another season of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. My approach to food is pretty straightforward. Fancy is fine, but when you're in a time crunch or have a really hungry and patient family to feed, I say simple recipes made with wholesome ingredients that you probably have on hand are the best. And that's exactly what you'll find on Paula Roy's Favorite Foods on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 20 degrees in Ottawa, partly cloudy, 22 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Now, we still don't know when O-Train service will resume, but testing is ongoing. OC Transpo is saying that axle hub assembly testing will continue today. However, you can expect some changes on R1 buses. Now, buses will use Albert and Slater instead of Queen Street. Westbound buses running on Albert with stops at Bank and Kent, and eastbound buses will run on Slater Street with stops at Kent and O'Connor. Now, the mayor is also incredibly frustrated with the latest issue when it comes to light rail, and he says it could have lasting effects for Stage 3. City News reporter Chris Curry is now with the details.
By lasting effects, Mark Sutcliffe says no taxpayer dollars will be put towards the third phase until Stage 1 and 2 are proven to be reliable.
I'm in the same position as Doug Ford. I'm not going to support putting Ottawa taxpayers' money into Phase 3 until we know Phase 1 and Phase 2 are working properly and we're getting the system we paid for.
Sutcliffe tells City News the path to getting good, reliable service is unknown, but believes we'll get there one day. And while he's not at the point right now of wanting brand new trains, he wants permanent solutions and soon. Stage 3 light rail is intended to extend into Barrhaven and Canada and had a price tag north of $5 billion. And funding had not yet been secured from upper levels of government. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, the federal government asking for the public's input on a new legislation to improve safety in long-term care. During their 2021 campaign, the Liberals promised the Safe Long-Term Care Act following the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The federal government plans to consult long-term care residents, their families, as well as provinces and territories and experts before tabling the legislation in Parliament. Now, the music world is remembering a music legend this morning. Tony Bennett has died at the age of 96. Our Caitlin Lee joins us now with a look back at his career.
One of the last great classic singers of the mid-20th century, Tony Bennett often said his lifelong ambition was to create a hit catalog instead of hit records.
It had to be you.
He won 20 Grammys over his over 7-decade career, sharing the stage and recording studio over the years with many other big names, including Judy Garland, Amy Winehouse, and near the end of his life, Lady Gaga. He also had a special friendship with his mentor, the late Frank Sinatra, who gave him the biggest compliment in 1965, saying, "For my money, Tony Bennett is the best singer in the business." Bennett told Jimmy Fallon he could never get over his friendship with Sinatra.
And he taught me that the audience are your friends. They come to see you. And he changed my whole psychology about there's no such thing as a bad audience. There's a bad performance, but there's not a bad audience.
Tony Bennett was diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2016. He would have been 97 on August the 3rd. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
Now, taking a look at your weather for today and going into the weekend, here's our weather specialist, Denise Andriachi.
Scattered showers, risk of isolated thunderstorms for this afternoon, and those storms could produce some heavier downpours, so there is the potential to see 30 to 50 millimeters in specific areas. So those totals for rainfall would be highly localized. Cloudy with the chance of showers overnight, and tomorrow we have sunny breaks, but still that risk of storms near 24 degrees. The guaranteed high today, 23.
Right now, we're still under that special weather statement by Environment Canada. 20 degrees right now, mostly cloudy. It's 22 in Smiths Falls. And a music act from the 80s is experiencing a resurgence after being the subject of a recent documentary. We get more from reporter Jason Nathanson.
The new Netflix documentary about Wham is waking up sales and streams of the 80s duo. Billboard says streaming of the Wham catalog is up 41%, and digital sales are up 537%.
Now, the music video network Vivo reports its Wham channel saw a 69% increase in video views the day after the documentary was released. City News Time, it's 12:05. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam off for a couple of weeks. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. And at this time, we usually do a lunch with Sam. Today, it's lunch with Derek. And pulling up a chair at the table to enjoy dining on some of the top issues of the day, I'm joined by Michael Wood, small business advocate and professor at Algonquin College. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, Derek. It's great to join you.
Great to have you here, Mike. And also Jeff Walker, president and CEO of CAA North and East Ontario. I've had many opportunities to speak to Jeff over the years. Jeff, great to have you back. How you doing?
Oh, I'm glad to be here and excited for the conversation.
All right. Well, let's dive into the first topic, and I thought this would be a great one, Jeff, because you know all about roads over there at CAA North and East Ontario, and there's been a lot of controversy around Queen Elizabeth Driveway and the Gatineau Park Parkways. You know, should these roads be closed to cars? When it comes to the Gatineau side, there's currently a petition with about 8,500 signatures for the NCC to restore full access to Champlain Parkway, Gatineau Parkway, and Fortune Parkway in Gatineau Park to pre-pandemic levels. But I think getting more interest really is the Queen Elizabeth Driveway, and I had a chance to speak to Mayor Sutcliffe a little bit earlier today about that portion of the Queen Elizabeth Driveway that's been closed to cars 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Here's what he had to say.
If you take that whole area and you make the pathways and the road only for pedestrians and cyclists, it creates all kinds of traffic pressures, and emergency vehicles have a harder time getting to their destinations to respond to calls in a timely fashion. And so my view is let's keep it open to everybody. Let's have space for cars. Let's have space for cyclists and pedestrians. And let's not create those kinds of traffic pressures.
All right, there's what the mayor had to say. Jeff, what do you think about this decision by the NCC?
So I got to say that I'm with the mayor on this one. I think that there's room for all three, the pedestrians, the bikes, and the cars. And that 7 days a week, 12 hours a day is probably a bit much. And it was great, I thought, when we were doing it as on Saturday, Sunday, the Sunday Bike Day thing. That seemed like a great kind of unique thing to do with the road there, and that's okay. But he's not wrong about the fact that you've got emergency vehicles, you've got others that really have problems when they can't get up and down the driveway.
Yeah, and I should mention to people, so this portion of the Queen Elizabeth Driveway is between 5th Avenue and Somerset Street. And again, that's from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. throughout the summer. I believe it wraps up September 9th. I think is the no. Yeah, I think that might be right. Mike, what do you think about this this idea? And I should say too, the NCC, Toby Nussbaum does have an op-ed piece in the Ottawa Citizen that explains why they've decided to continue to keep this closed. But your thoughts, Mike?
Sure, and Derek, I think you know me well enough that my whole life professionally is based on balance, and this seems completely unbalanced to me. I agree with Mayor Sutcliffe on this, that we can have it inclusive for, bikes, cars, especially the emergency vehicles, because if we look at people perhaps that, have some sort of disability, they can't get to the spots that they want to get to easily. And, I think that everything in this life, everybody will find that better results come with better balance when we're trying to tackle a problem.
Let's move on to the next topic, because again, this is something everybody's talking about. Our light rail system running along. It seemed to be quite good. It was working really well during Blues Fest, and then on Monday they discovered a bearing issue. They had to stop it and basically shut everything down during rush hour at 5 p.m. There is some concern that perhaps the province may be reluctant to properly fund, sort of the next phase. I again asked Mayor Sutcliffe about LRT funding, and if he had any concerns. This is what he had to say.
I'm in the same position as Doug Ford. I'm not going to support putting Ottawa taxpayers' money into Phase 3 until we know Phase 1 and Phase 2 are working properly and we're getting the system we paid for. So. Okay. Doug Ford and I are in complete agreement on this, and I speak to him regularly. He's very supportive. He's very understanding, but and I totally get his point of view. His government invested a lot of money in this system. So did the city of Ottawa, and until we get value for that money, we can't talk about another phase.
Yeah, and Jeff, Premier Ford went on to say that, he called it an absolute mess. He put the blame on the previous council and, of course, the previous mayor, Jim Watson. What do you make of what we're seeing? Because a lot of people, too, are looking back, Jeff, and saying, well, didn't we have an issue with bearings 2 years ago? And here we have the issue crop up again. It's so frustrating.
It's a broken project, and I think I speak probably for a lot of people in Ottawa to say it just feels like the whole thing, we wish we could just have a do-over right from the very beginning, right from that bidding process that there were issues with. And I don't have faith myself, and it's actually affecting our business. We were just talking about the effect on business. The number of people that are not taking public transit, not taking LRT, is putting that many more cars on the road, making that much more traffic. The traffic's kind of crazy in Ottawa. It's actually really affecting us being able to get to our members when they're broken down and when we need to take them from A to B. Like, we see real world effects of the lack of trust that people have in the system.
Mike, you ran for city council. You went door to door. I'm imagining if this wasn't the number one issue when you were speaking to your constituents, it must have been in the top two. What did you hear from them, and what are your feelings on yet another mess, with our light rail system?
Definitely a lot of people were talking about public transportation when I was at the door. They were talking about OC Transpo being what they felt was unreliable. And, Derek, I can tell you this. We also have a friend, Dick Cooper. We both teach at Algonquin, and the students will come to us and they'll say, look, we were waiting for public transportation, we're waiting for the bus, waiting for the LRT, and that's why we're late for class. So, I actually still see this firsthand. And the challenges that are happening, I think, right now are people, like Jeff is saying, they're reluctant to take public transportation. Obviously, revenue for OC Transpo is going to come down. It's going to have to be made up somewhere else. And I also do believe they're talking about Phase 3 is price tag right now at $5 billion. So before we put even $10 more in, we have to get everything fixed.
Yeah, and I feel so bad for commuters. that rely on public transit, and I think they're going to have. I think you just touched on it too, Jeff. Such a hard time getting people back too. I think that's the main issue for me going forward, is because people don't have confidence in the reliability. They have decided to go back to driving to work instead of taking public transit, and it's difficult to get people out of a habit once they get used to something, Jeff.
100%. And then you layer on stuff like we live in this hybrid work world where, you're only going to work a couple days a week. You don't want to buy a monthly pass, but the daily pass is very expensive, and then you don't even know if the thing will run. Like, there's a whole bunch of layers of problem around public transit, public infrastructure to do with transit, and LRT is actually only one of these problems.
I am going to take a break here, gentlemen, because I've got a couple of more topics I want to get to. Perhaps one on a little bit of the lighter side, one certainly a serious issue, and I think, Jeff, you'll probably be able to speak to this because at CAA, you guys certainly help a lot of people with travel. So we're going to talk a little bit of travel when it comes to one of the latest polls by Leger and what Canadians had to say. I'm being joined for lunch with Michael Wood and Jeff Walker. We'll be back with them right after this. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
If you're facing Alzheimer's disease or dementia, you don't have to do it alone. There are people and resources that can help, and we'll connect you to them. Alzheimer's Society of Ontario. Our connections matter.
Ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. We are back with Lunch with Derek, dining on some of the top issues of the day. I'm joined by Michael Wood, small business advocate and professor at Algonquin College, and Jeff Walker, president and CEO of CAA North and East Ontario. I mentioned that Leger poll, talking about travel, airline travel in particular. Almost half of Canadians surveyed by Leger said they think airlines aren't reliable when it comes to their departures and arrivals. 6 in 10 Canadians who have taken at least one flight in the past year said they have experienced flight delays. 2 in 10 experienced cancellations. Almost 2 in 10 experienced baggage delays, while another 10% experienced lost baggage. I mean, what do we do, Jeff, to try to fix some of these issues? This seems to be something that just continues to happen. You know, I mean, I know we blamed the pandemic, but this is some recent issues. And I talked to some guests yesterday on Lunch with Derek, and they described some of the issues they were having.
It's ongoing. It started, I mean, it's always been not fantastic, but it really got worse in the pandemic, and the ship just hasn't righted, right? And it's at multiple levels. I think there's a regulatory issue to start. The Canadian Transportation Agency created this regime around air passenger rights, and it just hasn't lived up to what it's supposed to have done. The airlines and seem to be able to run circles around what these CTAs built. Needs to be revamped, needs to be put in place sooner rather than later. So that's number one. Number two, we need more competition in this industry. We have it's structured in such a way that it's very difficult for new entrants to come in. We need more competition, just like we need more competition in the telecommunications industry. If you don't have competition, the incumbents can not quite do what they need to do to properly take care of consumers.
Yeah, and I think competition is difficult, Jeff and Mike, in that, you know, with a population our size and with a country our size, I oftentimes when I hear people compare us to the United States and how lucky they are with these discount airlines and they don't have the same issues, well, you're talking about 10 times the population of this country and a smaller country to boot. Mike, have you experienced, have you gone traveling in the last few years? Have you experienced any of these things?
I have to admit that I would be in the 40% of people that have not. I was actually down in New York City around Christmas time and flew from Ottawa. And you know, the one thing, and Jeff, I do agree with you that, you know, there's problems. You know, the passengers' Bill of Rights, I think what we're seeing too is staffing. I think that a lot of the staff, I've read reports on this, that they're taking a lot of abuse, whether it's verbal, physical, from people who are frustrated with the flights. And I think we're starting to see even more people resign because they just can't deal with it. And you know, at the end of the day, you know, I know that we take it for granted. Way back in the days, Jerry Seinfeld said, you're sitting in a chair in the sky. And so, you know, I think we just have to be more understanding, patient as customers, as people try and do their best to help us.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mike, too, because you're right. I mean, we are very fortunate in that we have the technology to take us anywhere in the world, and we can, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have the means to travel and see the world, I mean, we are extremely blessed to live in a time where we can do that. But I certainly understand people's frustrations, but I appreciate what you said is don't forget that the people that are trying to deal with these issues, it's not necessarily their fault. Those frontline people, you know, at the desk, it's not their fault. Let's end with a really cool story. You know, the Ottawa Red Blacks, and I know, Jeff, you're a big Red Blacks fan yourself. CAA has a great experience there for people at the games, and Mike and I went to see a game with my wife a few weeks back. This kid, Dustin Crum, I believe he's 24 years old. I like this tag they have for him. They're calling him the Crumback Kid. 4-string quarterback, and you know, showing some promise. The Red Blacks have really struggled at home, Jeff, but 2 home wins. Are you encouraged by what you've seen from this young man?
Well, I am encouraged, but really it was about 1 quarter and a half of greatness.
Yes.
Preceded by, we literally didn't have a positive yard in the first half of this game by the offense. So I'm excited, I'm happy, but, and he's grown into it, but it's really just a quarter and a half.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, something I spoke to Ken Avrera yesterday, former CFL wide receiver, and, it's all well and good. As you just described, Jeff, he had caught lightning in a bottle and then literally the last 3 minutes of the game. If people don't know what we're talking about, like he scored a touchdown with no time left on the clock. He needed a 2-point conversion, got the 2-point conversion, and then the running touchdown after in overtime, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had kicked a field goal, and he runs 29 yards for a touchdown. But this is a passing league. This guy's a great runner for sure. They're going to have to use that. But, he is a quarterback. We've already lost 2 quarterbacks for the season. This guy, you've got to protect him. But, does he have the tools? I guess it's a wait-and-see attitude, Mike.
Well, here's the thing is I strongly believe that everything in this life happens for a reason. And he needs to stay focused. He needs to stay grounded and just know that this is his chance to ignite the entire fan base of the Red Blacks here in town. And obviously, he's got a great opportunity to do that. He's a young guy. And so let's just go out and keep winning every game from here on out.
Jeff, you probably know I've got Julie Buin coming on Daytime Ottawa today between 2 and 3 p.m. We've got a live show today. Julie, of course, the Director of Communications and Public Relations with CAA North and East Ontario. She's going to be talking about CAA and the fact that you've sponsored the Red Blacks. Tell us what's available to CAA members at the game.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We reinvigorated the whole North versus South thing at CAA this year. We said, guys, let's bring that back. And so every game we're giving away T-shirts. We're giving away these little mini footballs. We got a T-shirt cannon. We're throwing stuff into the stands all around North versus South. So that's a lot of fun. But then members get 10% off tickets. And members get 10% off merchandise automatically with the Red Blacks if they want to come out. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I will say, you guys have experienced the before game, I'm sure, too. Mike, they do a great job, don't they, there? I mean, they're really trying hard. I spoke to one of the owners a few weeks back, and, he was starting to get concerned that, if you're not winning at home, the fans have been great, but they're going to start turning away regardless of the great entertainment that's provided. But it really is a great experience down there, isn't it, Mike?
Absolutely, and that's all part of it, too. The football game's a football game, but how they entertain the crowd, the audience, during the game, halftime, and even during the whistles, there's an opportunity to really show everything that's happening here in the city and with the team, and they do a really, really good job.
Yeah, and I encourage people, show up early when you go to a home game. They got a band at all times there playing, and they've got discounts on beverages and that kind of thing. It really is a great atmosphere. And, of course, you go down there early on and, maybe meet some friends at one of the local restaurants that are down there as well. It's a lot of fun down there. Gentlemen, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And the two of you have a fantastic weekend.
Yourself as well, Derek.
Thanks so much, Derek.
Thank you. That is Jeff Walker, President and CEO of CAA North and East Ontario, and Michael Wood, small business advocate and professor at Algonquin College. Again, if you want to find out more about CAA and what they do, tune in to Daytime Ottawa. Today, we're live between 2 and 3 p.m. We usually take a bit of a hiatus over the summer and play some best ofs, but we're doing some live shows on Fridays. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
This is a man's heart, a heart in desperate need of medical attention. But because 78% of Indigenous people experience racism in healthcare, he may not get the help he needs. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Hi, I'm Meg from Fit Over 50, and I'm here with Fit Finley. I want to invite you to join my upcoming workout, which is focused on upper body and lower body stretches. No equipment is required. All you'll need is a chair. Hope to see you there.
Fit Over 50 with Meg, weekday mornings at 8:30 on Rogers TV.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
For local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, July 21st. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, some light rain in Ottawa, 19 degrees. It's 22 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. Hydro Ottawa and the union representing its workers back at the bargaining table today. Hundreds of Hydro workers walked off the job in June after their contracts expired in March. Now, earlier this week, the union presented an offer to Hydro, but the head of the company is saying they weren't sure how close they were to reaching an agreement. But the head, Bryce Conrad, is hopeful that an agreement can be reached. Now, a legend in the music industry has died at the age of 96. Tony Bennett, ending an extraordinary career that spanned generations of music lovers.
For more than 60 years, he played his voice like a beautiful instrument and with a passion that led Frank Sinatra to call him the best in the business. He sang duets with Elton John, Amy Winehouse, and Lady Gaga. But at age 90, a devastating Alzheimer's diagnosis. His family saying the disease progressed rapidly with the weight of isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, he was named a Kennedy's Center honoree in 2005. He died at the age of 96. City News Time, it's 12:31. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Yes, it is the Business Lunch here on the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. We're going to talk the business of farming to start things off, to kick things off here in the as we go into the last half hour here of the show. The business of farming is our discussion with Mike Milsom from Mike's Garden Harvest. Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And Mike, you have a really interesting background. Your family background. I was reading up about you first thing this morning when I saw that you were coming on. And farming is something that's been in your family, right? You just didn't just come by this and decide on your own. As I understand it, you used to have and manage an apple Valley cider mill, right, in Collingwood, is that right?
That's correct. I knew I wanted to farm since I was 8.
Really?
And yeah, it's truly been that long. And it was my father's vision. We used to, as I was going through high school, we used to sneak off a day together. Me playing hooky from school, him playing hooky from his work, and we go to the farmers' plowing match every year and spend a day. Nice. And that's a cherished memory. But one of his favorite things was to grab a 2-liter bottle of fresh pressed cider, and he would look long and deep at it and say, really find a way to make that commercially viable. It would really be something. And he followed that passion and vision, and what became of it was the Apple Valley Cider Mill, which became a President's Choice product, actually, and very successful one. And there were many aspects of his vision and how he approached the quality and care of making a homespun product, if you will, that has found its way into what we do at Mike's Garden Harvest.
Yeah, I just love that story. And I mean, what a great success to make it as a President's Choice product for Loblaws. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. And I mean, you enrolled, as I understand it, in the farm management program at the University of Guelph and spent a lot of time, in I guess what they call them, seed rooms and soil labs and that kind of thing. But that motivated you to kind of sort of think outside the box. Can you explain that motivation to me?
Yeah, and again, this is somewhat inspired by my father, who taught me to sort of not just consider the path well trodden, but also to look at alternate paths. And I saw a need to connect people with how their food is grown and all the pieces of those. And so for for many years of sort of having that on the back burner, I hit the 50-yard mark 10 years ago and thought about what I would do with myself that was meaningful now that the child rearing was behind me. Right. And I honestly thought that really the best way to dedicate the rest of my time is to connect people with how their food is grown. And we found the perfect location for that vision at 436 River Road, which is National Capital Commission land. Right. And which is, between primarily Riverside South and the Hunt Club community, and in line with the Ottawa Airport. And what we've done is, a variety of things within that vision. So we do have garden plots that I rent out, and allotment plots, and people happily do their own thing. And then we have also about 12 acres that we manage ourselves. And we have the people coming to the farm store to pick up on a weekly basis. And then we also do what's called a CSA, which is a kind of a subscription program, if you will. And people invest in the season with us, and the return on their investment is a weekly box of fully customized, freshly grown vegetables that they can have either delivered to their door or pick up at the farm store, whichever they prefer.
What's the growing season been like for you this year, Mike?
It's actually been great.
Excellent.
And there is the difference between your first year managing this kind of a project and your 10th year is by the 10th year, it's no matter what, you find a way. And we've certainly, fortunate to have the kinds of infrastructure in place that, help us provide the kind of selection and quality of vegetable that we would like to be able to offer our people. So it's been a really good year.
Let's just go back quickly to the CSA. I mean, this is, I love this concept. My wife and I have done it in the past, and you're really investing in a farmer like yourself, Mike, without really knowing what the outcome's necessarily going to be, right? In that farming season, or, you know, how well certain things will grow. And so it's kind of a mystery sometimes, right? And I think it makes it, I really think it makes it exciting, because you never know what's going to be in that basket from season to season, right?
Well, you're making me chuckle, because you've taken me back to my very first year when, you know, it was March, and all I had was flyers in a frozen field covered in snow, and I was walking about putting those flyers in people's mailboxes, trying to sell the idea of a basket of fresh vegetables. And I won't be shy to say that those folks that signed up with me certainly dug deep into their confidence and to give me a chance. But you know, we've raised and grown and made mistakes and learned from them, and each year we get a little bit better, and it is genuinely made possible by the, you know, it's not a service, it is an investment in a farm, and it is what helps us move forward, and I'm extremely grateful for our CSA customer base.
Mike, what can people find in one of those fully customizable baskets these days? What have you got?
Well, this is the height of salad season right now, where the lettuces are really great. The herbs are at their peak. We've got a nice mix of some of the tender greens, like your bunching onions, your cucumbers, and early carrots, that kind of thing. And so it's a wonderful time of year to make your own salad dressing, have a crisp, tasty salad beside whatever else you're making, and we're you know, it's a celebration really of flavor and right from the garden, and that's it's a fun time of year for us at this point.
Yeah, no kidding. Mike, is it possible to sign up now, or do you have to do that before the growing season kind of begins?
Well, ideally, it's done at early in the season, but we actually still have room this year, and because we've our infrastructure has expanded to accommodate, and we're excited about what's coming from the field. So we'd be happy to share with anybody who's still interested in participating with that program. And even if they're not ready to sort of make that level of commitment, if you will, anybody is welcome to visit our farm store, and that's open Wednesday through Sunday, and pick and choose from what we have on display.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and so people can just stop by, which is wonderful. That's great to hear. Mike, really appreciate your time today, and I know big anniversary year for you, 10-year anniversary. So congratulations. You know, farming is such hard work, and my hat's off to you. And obviously, you've got an extreme passion for it. So I you know, congratulations on all your success so far, Mike.
Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm once again very, very grateful for the opportunity to showcase not just what I've done, but all the fine people that have come alongside to help make us be who we are.
Yeah, well said, Mike. Have a wonderful weekend.
You as well.
Thank you. That's Mike Milsom from Mike's Garden Harvest. Head over to mikesgardenharvest.com, by the way. You can find out all the information there. It's got the full breakdown. It's usually like a 16-week veggie share. So he's got like different sizes. So you've got, you know, something for smaller families. You've got obviously a bigger pickup, sort of a double portion. Is the max value one. Mike's is max. You can find out all the prices and information on the website. Again, mikesgardenharvest.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more here on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and, of course, listening right here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam, back to talk about another great success story. You know, during the Ottawa Business Journal business hour that we have here, and we highlight various businesses. We have so many fantastic businesses. One of the success stories is my next guest, owner of Angie's Models and Talent Inc., AMTI Management Inc., Angie Secla-Seymour, joining us on the show this morning. Good morning, Angie. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you? I hope you're wearing pink, Derek.
I'm not actually, but I do own a lot of pink. I do own a lot of pink in my wardrobe. I should have, and I'm imagining you're referring to what looks to be most likely a huge box office hit, and that is the Barbie movie. And the interesting part of this story is one of the members of the cast, Ryan Gosling. You have a story to tell.
Yes, I discovered him at Top Hat Dance School way back in Cornwall 3 decades ago. He was 11 years old, and I go backstage and I said, "Where are your parents?" And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you need to act." He goes, "I don't want to act. I just want to sing and dance." And I said, "No problem. You could sing and dance at my showcase. And you can open, close, do a number in between." He goes, "All right, I'll act then."
Really?
Yeah, he didn't want to act.
Unbelievable.
He's a performer. One day he modeled at the Civic Complex in Cornwall, walking down the runway. He walked halfway and turned around, and I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I can't just walk. I need to perform."
I love it. Now, do you still have any type of relationship with him now, Angie?
A little bit, not a lot.
Okay.
More with his dad than him. He's so busy. So, yeah.
It must be exciting for you, though, to find a talent like that, and to, as you said, look back and see his beginning to where he is now. Any surprise at all, just how big of a star he has become?
No, I called it from the beginning. And the first show he did, I used to work for the federal government. The first show we did, it was a fundraiser for the Hotel du Hospital, the children's ward. And that's where he performed for his first time for me. And I told people, look at him. Remember the name, Ryan Gosling, because he's not going to be in Cornwall for too long.
I imagine you're going to be checking out the Barbie movie.
I will.
Yeah.
I will be. Yeah.
I'm actually on Rotten Tomatoes right now, and I think when people first heard that a Barbie movie was coming out, I'm sure a lot of people sort of rolled their eyes, like, "Oh, here we go, a Barbie movie! You got to be kidding me!" Excellent reviews so far on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, as far as reviewers, certified reviewers at an 89%, audience score at 90%. A huge cast, though, right? Ryan Gosling, Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig, Will Ferrell's there. I mean, it's
an all-star cast.
Yeah.
All-star, and they're all amazing. I thought the same thing. I was like, Barbie movie? Why would Ryan do that? And he did it for his daughter. It was something he wanted to do for his daughter. And he's always a ham. He's always been a ham, hamming it up. I have so many videos of him hamming it up. And this is so perfect for him because he did some dark movies, and then, of course, La La Land.
Oh, I loved La La Land.
And this one is totally out of the ordinary.
Yeah. La La Land, I'm glad you brought that up because honestly, that is one of the most magical films I have watched. Maybe it was just the time that I ended up watching it with my wife, and the two of us, just the cinematography in that.
Yes,
it's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful, just beautiful. He's an actor, his whole family hams it up, like his
really,
uncle, Elvis Presley impersonator.
No way! Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so he's always been on stage, raised in a Mormon church. He just loves the stage. He's not shy. He flirts on stage. He has charisma. More like when he's a child, like sex appeal as a young child, so everybody loved him. I remember doing a show at the Messina Mall, and the mall manager said, "Angie, could you tell Ryan Gosling to not move his hips like that? He's only 12, and he can't sing when a man loves a woman. He has to sing more age-appropriate songs." I said, "I cannot tell him that. That is not."
I love it. Angie, I want to talk more about you and yes. your business, because as I said off the top, an incredible success story. How did you get into this industry in the beginning?
It was a fluke.
Really?
I never planned it. I worked for the unemployment office, being an employment counselor on 1 Water Street in Cornwall, Ontario.
Okay.
And I realized that there was a need in Cornwall for women to improve themselves, to wear makeup, to do their nails, do their hair, and for kids to know manners. So I opened up a charm and etiquette school. And that's all I was, just to teach them charm and etiquette. And we'd go for high tea. I'd have them set the table, and that's how it all started. And next thing you know, I was one of Canada's first teleworkers. And they only put it into play during COVID, where government people worked at home. I worked at home, reduced my hours from 37 to 15 because my business got really busy when I did plan it. And did that for a year or so, and then I took the golden handshake, and I've been doing this business for 34 years now.
Wow. And let's talk about the growth over the years, where you were and where you are today.
Started in Cornwall. and I rented a studio with 2 dancers, Magoo and Pascalinas, and it was my idea to open up a place where people could go and learn etiquette and also dance. So we all had our 3 businesses. We only paid $100 a month rent.
Okay. Wow.
And then I grew, so I moved out and went across the street to a bigger location by myself. And then people were coming from all over, from Ottawa, Montreal, Kingston, Messina, Burlington. So, and a lot of people from Ottawa to start their career in this industry. And then my daughter, being only 12 years old, she said, Mom, you should move to Ottawa. We should all move to Ottawa because everybody comes from Ottawa, the majority. And I said, okay. So we moved to Ottawa, and then the business grew even more. And the rest of Soul Max Keeping used to bring models to my house.
Really?
He used to scout for me.
Wow.
And bring me models to my house in Cornwall.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many success stories. I know, from working with you and of course Lou. Maybe is there one that you can share, like another standout success?
Another standout is Harriet Paul. She walked in 12 years old, 5'11", and I said, why are you here? And she goes, I heard you have connections with Disney, and I want to be a Disney star. And I said, oh, you're not a Disney star right now. You're a supermodel. So she goes, what? I don't know how to model. I said, you'll know how. We'll teach you how. So we taught her how to walk in heels, how to pose, and her first job was Calvin Klein in New York City. And she's become the face of Maybelline, Tom Ford, Joe Fresh, Sephora, name it. She's a supermodel. And I called it from the moment she knocked on my door.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your roster like now, Angie?
It's a lot of stars. There's Sam Ash Arnold as well, who's a leading actor, and I called him the next Ryan Gosling. And at 15, he did Are You Afraid of the Dark? And Ryan did Are You Afraid of the Dark? Both of them at 15 years old. And he's a next superstar. I mean, he's done so well. And there's just so many. There's Angel, Malika. Like, we're just signing contracts left and right. It's about 100 people. Amazing. And they're all working. The majority is working. Whoever wants to do this and put in the work, they could do it. But the people that think it's easy, as you know, it's not easy.
No.
There's a lot of rejection. 99% is rejection. And it's how you pick yourself up to keep going to the next step.
I just, thinking of how difficult it is, I certainly remember going to those auditions and, the stress involved and that kind of thing. How do you work with your clients, the people that you represent to get them in a place where you finally get to that comfort zone, Angie?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of hand-holding. During COVID, during the lockdown, I sent out an inspirational, motivational emails every single day. And just to teach them more about the industry and inspire them. And now, since COVID, the industry has become a lot easier. Before COVID, you had to leave your job or leave school to drive to Toronto or Montreal on a day's notice or less, or the morning of, to go to an audition for a 3-minute audition, if that, and then drive back home, then drive back for the callback, and then drive back if you booked it. And if you didn't book it, oh well, then you're out of so much money for gas. Now you pick up your phone, you have a ring light, and you do a self-tape or on Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it's totally different.
Absolutely, and it's we're so fortunate we're able to do that because you just described my life, and I had a job, so if they said, oh, there's an audition for you tomorrow, to get out of my job wasn't easy, right? To go to Montreal or Toronto for an audition. Angie, congratulations to you and Lou, and just what a great success story, and thanks for sharing that story about Ryan Gosling. I'm looking forward to seeing that film.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Pink.
You got it. That's a guarantee. Thanks again, Angie. Appreciate the time. That's Angie Secla-Seymour, Angie's Models and Talent Inc., AMTI Management Inc. I can't say enough about what a great couple, what a great success story that is. You can find them, by the way, amtimanagement.com online. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Page filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.